Hey everyone, welcome back. Michael with Offshore Citizen here, and I'm going to give it a little bit of an explanation today on how come I ended up moving to Bulgaria, and maybe will help inform your decisions, all right? So I originally came here about 2 years ago, and kind of a few driving pieces around. So I had heard about Bulgaria from some people that I did business with that said, hey, listen, the taxes are relatively low. They kind of explained that. Now, back then, 10% was not necessarily the most attractive, but we're in the point where we're starting to get to this move towards what we'd call mid-shore jurisdictions. So places where you pay some tax, but it's lower, the lower costs are lower, et cetera. The costs, I mentioned, it's very inexpensive. You can employ people there. And so, this seems attractive. So I came to check it out, formed a company here, et cetera, went through that process. And anyway, I ended up meeting my wife shortly, now my wife, she wasn't my wife at the time, but she's from Montenegro. And so we were in a situation where I'm from Canada originally, she's from Montenegro, and we said, okay, we want to be together somewhere. We need a place that we can both fairly easily get residency, and ideally that place is going to be business friendly, okay? So this was kind of for us the primary driver. And what I've noticed is a lot of people from Western Europe in particular are coming to Bulgaria because of the business friendly nature of it. So you're seeing that in Western Europe, they have very high socials, so that's increasing the cost of labor dramatically. Wages themselves tend to be higher, although wages are rising in Bulgaria. The cost of living is higher, general taxes are higher, and there's a fair amount of bureaucracy around getting things done. Come to Bulgaria, and you're going to find the cost of living is quite low. So you can go and check out some of our other videos where I discuss this a little bit. You have 10% tax, potentially as low as 5%, depending on how you're structured. So that's good. It could be up to 14.5%, but anyway, basically you're talking about 10% tax. And then on top of that, you have a relatively business-friendly environment. So we're in a place today where it's hard to open bank accounts. It's hard to form a company is fairly easy, but there's that. It's convenient to get around. You're in an environment where the infrastructure is pretty good. So it's a fairly attractive place to set up and do business. And one of the cool things about that is that means that there's a community of people who are similar kind of online entrepreneurs, people who can have some flexibility in where to live. We're moving here, in particular, people from the EU. It's quite a bit harder for someone not from the EU to get residency, et cetera, but it's very easy for people from the EU. But that being said, it is still, if you were to say, okay, well, where am I going to go in the EU? You can be in a situation where, provided your background, your situation is right, you can get residency pretty easily. So that was the situation for us. Now we got to go through the process of actually trying this out and doing it, and so that gives us some firsthand experience, which is great. But it's kind of, you have to kind of contextualize that. You might say, oh, why don't you go here? Well, you can't just go anywhere in the world very easily. So for example, you could contrast Bulgaria with Singapore. It's much harder to move to and become resident in Singapore than it is to move to and become resident in Bulgaria. Okay, that's a challenging thing. And it's also going to be more expensive there. It's very business friendly there, so that's good, right? Taxes are going to be lower in Bulgaria. And for us, for the type of business that we do and kind of the ability to explore and share things with you guys, this was pretty practical. So if you're in a similar situation, it's not the only option by any stretch. At the time when we were considering where to go, we looked at a variety of different places. We looked at Panama, is quite easy to go to, Bulgaria, Montenegro. Let's see here, where else did we look at? You could look at someplace like Andorra, at Georgia, at Thailand. Malaysia now is quite a popular one, and I think a very good option. I'll do a video on Malaysia at some point in time. Let's see here, Dubai. And so, you kind of contrast these. And if you pay attention, so part of how we looked at it was we said, well, we don't want to be on an island, a small island. We looked at Malta. It's too small, it's too contained, things like this. In Dubai, there's this problem with being able to do calls really easily. So VoIP is blocked there, and it creates some hassles. It's fairly expensive. The taxes are quite good. They've got some weird things around, like you pay rent a year in advance, which if you're uncertain about going there, you're not sure is, a fairly major commitment. So things along that line were considerations. Then we looked at places like Thailand, or we like things about Thailand, but it's also chaotic and it's dirty, so I don't know. And anyway, that's being here. We've learned lots, and so I'm happy if you want to reach out. We'll answer any questions that you have. But yeah, I figured I would share that to give you some insights. And maybe the last thing I'll end with just is, why would people not move here? And I think this is the selection. I've talked about this in previous videos, but the selection availability of services is less than you would get in some places. For example, if you're into healthy food, there's just not the variety that there is in some other areas. It's not a tourist place, so it's not a place that's like a very, it's not an aesthetically pleasing city. It's kind of got this old communist thing. However, there's all sorts of parks and dogs, and that's nice, and it's very easy to get around in terms of walking. So, people, I find, some have issues sometimes if they dislike it, so they dislike the culture. They may want some place that has more conveniences, and they may prefer the weather somewhere else. Those would be, I think, the three main things that drive people away. And anyway, it's a place that's getting better, and if it's right for you, you can check it out. And there's lots of other places to check out as well. So if you like the video, please subscribe, click like, and I'm going to see you guys very soon.